Hi, and welcome to the first ever episode of No Line About Sports. I'm your host, the Lion Man, and I'm really excited to get this new adventure, this new podcast on the way and see how it goes. I'm a rabid sports fan, and I wanted to put something out there to share with my friends and other people who enjoy podcasts that might be a little different than what we're used to on our everyday sports channels and ESPN and things like that. So first of all, I want to give you a little history behind the show, what it's going to be about, what to expect. It's a sports podcast, obviously, and it's not going to be political. It's not going to talk about social issues. It's just strictly sports. And it's a podcast about for people who don't get their feelings hurt. If you're one of those people that say, oh, if you talk bad about your team, you can't be a true fan, then this isn't a podcast you're going to enjoy. Or if you don't like it when people call out teams or individual athletes when they do bad or when they disappear in big moments, then you're not going to like this because we're going to call them out. We're going to call out the teams that don't show up for the big game. We're going to call out the superstars that don't show up when it's their time to show up. This is part of another sister podcast. In fact, 3 other sister podcasts called No Lying About Music, No Lying About Trivia, No Lying About Paranormal. Those are topics that interest me, and I will have podcasts to deal with each individual topic. So if that's something that seems interesting to you, keep your ear out for that. Those will be coming soon. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm your host, the Lion Man. I played and coached high school basketball for over 10 years. I played high school football, and I coached high school football for about 7 years. I'm no genius, but I probably know more than you. All right? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Probably I do. Well, let's just say what I do, because I probably do. But feel free to disagree with me. Feel free to engage, interact with this show. Feel free, if you're brave enough, to ask to come on to be a guest. See if you can stand the heat, if you can take the smoke. Okay, because we're not going to hold punches back here. Just to let you know. We're going to have special segments on this show. We're going to have special guests. We're going to have people that come on that are experts or fans of certain teams or certain sports, and they're going to give us their perspective, their takes, their predictions. You know, we can keep track of that. We can banter back and forth. So with no further ado, let's get No Lying About Sports underway. So let's talk about what happened this past weekend in the NFL. The first wild card game was Saturday, and it was the Raiders versus the Bengals. You know, before the game started, I picked the Bengals. I thought they'd win by 10 or more. I mean, the Raiders, you have to tip your hat to them, man. They went through a lot of, on and off field controversy, with Chucky getting fired. And I still say Chucky was set up. I'm not saying he was innocent or he didn't deserve to be reprimanded or dealt with. But, somebody that pulled up emails from 10 years ago on you, they're getting paid by somebody to find dirt on you. So somebody set that man up. And, how that went down is real shady to me. But you know what? Give credit to the interim head coach who came in and kept the ship going. And, the Henry Ruggs had that accident where he killed somebody and his career is gone. I mean, there's just so many reasons they could have just melted in, but they didn't, man. They kept fighting. And I think Carr overall had a good year. He had some ups and downs, but overall I think he did a good job. I think that Max Crosby kid is a monster. Jesus. It's like every time I watch that team play, nobody can block him. So he's up and coming, no doubt. And, they got good skill position, So I think the Raiders up and coming. And if I'm the owner of the Raiders, which I'm not, maybe I should be, might do a better job. But if I was the owner of the Raiders, I think you got your coach there. I think he showed, hey, these guys work hard for me. They want to win. They want to do their best. And I wouldn't mess with it. I was like, let's get ready for next year. Let's start working hard for next year. I would not bring in somebody else. I would not. Just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I'm probably not. The next game was the Bills and the Patriots, and I actually picked the Patriots before the game started. So, yeah, I was wrong. So I was really surprised, not that the Bills won necessarily, but how dominant they were and how the Patriots were basically a no-show. And that's just so unlike a Belichick coach team to play so poorly in a big spot. And I hear immediately after the game, after they got smoked, everybody's like, oh, this shows that Tom Brady was the genius in New England. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Tom Brady's arguably the greatest quarterback ever. If not, he's in the top 2 or 3. But that does not take away Bill Belichick's greatness. I mean, think about it. Belichick just made the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. Do you know how hard that is to have a rookie quarterback lead your team to the playoffs? So slow down the Bill Belichick was overrated comments, because you're ridiculous if you believe that. Sunday, first game of the day was the Eagles at the Bucs, and once again, I got it wrong. I thought the Eagles' number 1 rushing attack would go in there, control the game, keep Brady on the sideline, and all the turmoil that's going on in Tampa Bay with the injuries and AB. I was like, man, they're ripe for the picking. I actually picked the stinking Eagles to beat the Bucs. Well, that didn't.
Oh, no!
And, give Brady credit. He was the consummate pro. He led his team. He didn't turn the ball over. And the Eagles, well, they're the Eagles, and I don't know why I picked them, because they didn't really deserve even to be in the playoffs, but somehow they made it. So the next game of the day on Sunday was the Cowboys and the Niners. Now, I'm going to be honest. I freaking hate the Dallas Cowboys with every fiber of my being. Since I was 6 years old in the 70s, I've hated the Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys so much that sometimes at night I can't look up in the sky because those stars make me sick to my stomach. So obviously I was going for the Niners, and I picked the Niners because I'm like, well, it's the playoffs, and well, it's the Cowboys, and well, they usually choke.
Preview.
So game starts off, and the 49ers take the opening kickoff and just shove it right down Dallas's throat and score. And pretty much from there, tone was set. San Fran won both sides of the ball, the D-line side and the O-line side. They controlled both lines of scrimmage. Dak Prescott was MIA for about 90% of the game. Zeke, I mean, boy, did he pull a fast one on Jerry Jones.
Money.
And now he's giving you about 18 yards a game. Good for Zeke. He got paid, and he's through. That guy will never, ever be like he used to be. CeeDee Lamb, young receiver, really good, talented receiver. No show. So, I mean, if you're going to advance in the playoffs, you got to have your studs play big time. And on the defensive side, Micah Parsons, I remember them calling his name twice where he ran sideline to sideline and met Deebo Samuels after like a 1-yard gain. But besides that, not really much out of Micah. And Diggs, if you get him with a double move, 9 times out of 10, he's going to bite because he wants to go for the pick, but he gets up the big plays behind him. And, Jimmy G did his best to choke the game away.
Oh, hell no.
Even the Cowboys couldn't take a Jimmy G gift choke job. So the 49ers held on at the last play of the game. Everybody's crying. Oh, the referee didn't get out of the way. But what kind of moron calls a quarterback draw with 14 seconds left and no timeout? I mean, I'm sorry. I don't feel sorry for you if the referee didn't get out of your way. That play should have never been called. From what I was been told, you need a minimum of 16 seconds with no timeouts to run a play, to get lined up, and to spike the ball. You need a minimum of 16 seconds to do that. And if I know that sitting on my couch, how come the offensive coordinator in the building calling the game doesn't know that? So that's just totally unexcusable. So guess what, Dallas? You're going home. So they had a short trip. Good for them. And the night game involved my favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, we did not belong in the playoffs. Yes, we were beyond lucky to get to the playoffs. And yes, our fan base is delusional, and they were posting on social media all weekend how we were going to upset the Chiefs. I never.
Oh, hell no.
And of course, I picked the Chiefs to win because I'm not an idiot, even though I'm a fan. And we started off the game good. We ran cover 2 under man. So we had 2 safeties over top. We had press man coverage underneath. First quarter worked beautiful. And we were able to get a strip fumble. TJ Watt picks it up, runs it in for a touchdown. We're up 7-0. Hey, not bad, man. Then what do? We quit playing man and go zone. Why?
Makes me mad and somebody don't
Because
listen.
we're idiots. And Mahomes tore us up. So once again, terrible coaching. We were already undermanned. We were already like a, 12 to 14 point dog. So at least we need good coaching to give us half a chance, but can't get good coaching on either side of the ball, offense or defense. Can't get it. Now, of course, that was Ben's last game. Bittersweet. Ben's been a great Steeler. One of the, in my opinion, one of the top 5 Steelers of all time. You know, he's did a lot. And if it wasn't for Ben, people like me would still be walking around talking about, 1979 Steelers, or one of the 70 Steelers teams that won the Super Bowl. So thank you, Ben, but your time has come and gone, and we appreciate what you gave. Now, let's just hope the next quarterback is not Mason Rudolph, for the love of God. So tonight has the Rams versus the Cards. I'm going to go ahead pregame, and I'm going to pick the Rams to win, and to win pretty easy. And that would mean that next week they would take on Tampa Bay. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's how it goes. So next week, the matchups should be Rams at Bucks, Bengals at Titans, Bills at Chiefs, and Niners at Packers. Now, we'll talk about winners for that in a little bit later on. Now it's time for our segment called This Is Why Your Team is Overrated. In our first segment of this, we are going to discuss the one, the only Dallas Cowboys. Now, let me be honest. They have a lot of talent. They really do. Offensively, they got a couple of really good old linemen. Dak, I don't think is an elite quarterback, but he's probably between 10 and 13, like top 12, 13 quarterbacks in the league, anywhere from 10 to 13. I mean, he's just kind of up and down. I mean, but he's not a bad quarterback. He's just not a great one. Receiver-wise, Amari Cooper, talented, really good route runner. Now, he's, for whatever reasons, disappears when they go on the road. Just like he does really good at home, and then they go on the road, and you don't even know he's on the field. CeeDee Lamb, he's a really talented young player. He could, if he pushes himself and works hard, he could, arguably be one of the best receivers in the league. It just depends on how bad he wants to work, how hard he wants to work for it. They got serviceable tight ends. They got like 2 or 3 guys at tight end that you can't really tell a difference when they're in and out because they're all about the same, but they're all pretty solid. So Wilson is good. Wilson was actually like a 4th receiver because Gallup was like the 3rd receiver. Gallup was a really good 3rd receiver. I think he's the best 3rd receiver in the NFL, to be honest with you. Defensively, they got a really good pass rush. D-Law, we got Micah. There's a lot of instant pressure on the quarterback. If you don't have a good offensive line, then you're going to have a long day against them. The linebackers are solid. I think they're kind of weak in coverage. I think if you can attack their linebackers in coverage with running backs and slots, and then you can expose them a little bit, but they're solid against the run as far as their fits. Secondary is kind of weak to me. I mean, Diggs makes a lot of interceptions, but he also gives up a lot of plays. But, they got talent. They're not a talentless team. So instead of saying overrated, maybe they're a little bit more overhyped. I think I should say overhyped more than overrated. I think the people who are not Cowboy fans rate the Cowboys exactly how they should be. Like, obviously the best team in the NFC East. I mean, the worst division in football. Obviously the best team in there. Probably like the 4th or 5th best team in the NFC. In the NFL, they might be top 7 or 8 teams, something like that. So they're not a bad team. They're not a terrible team, but they're so overhyped. And it's, people can say, well, that's not their fault that the media talks about, but actually it is their fault because that's all Jerry Jones wants. He just wants them talked about on the media, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. He's all about, no publicity is bad publicity, and let's just keep our name out there and let's talk. And then the media every day, when Dallas beats the Redskins by 30 points, and they're, the Cowboys, they look like the best team in football. They just destroyed the Washington Redskins. And then people who know football are actually, okay, but everybody destroys the Redskins. So what's your point? Why are you getting so excited? When the Redskins lost a couple weeks ago to, I don't know, pick a team, Arizona, y'all wasn't leading Sports Center off with that, but the Cowboys beat them, and, you act like they just won the Super Bowl. So that's kind of what gets into people's skin about them. And they're super arrogant. I mean, God, it's just disgusting. They'll be losing a game, and, they'll catch a ball and they get up and make a first down, or, I think CeeDee Lamb likes to do this, right? And just win a game, win multiple games, win a playoff game, accomplish stuff before you become arrogant. If you're good and you're the best at what you do, then flaunt it. To the victor go the spoils. But if you've never accomplished nothing in 26 years, why on God's green earth are you talking smack and dancing and pointing? You shouldn't be doing up and going back to the huddle and trying to win a game and try to get to the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. It's been 26 years. My kids have never seen the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. That's how long it's been. And I got 3 of them. So Dallas, that is why America, and when I say America, I mean fans of all the other NFL teams hate you. It's not because we want to be you. It's because we're sick of hearing about you in the media And every time we turn on the TV, and year after year, and you do nothing. Now, let's talk about some head coaching vacancies in the NFL. So let's talk about some vacancies going on. There's several teams without a coach. We got Houston, Denver, Miami, Chicago, to name a few off the top of my head. And let's talk about some possible candidates in each of those vacancies. First of all, I think when the Dolphins fired Brian Flores the other day, it kind of shocked everybody. And everybody's like, man, what happened? And then stories started coming out like, oh, he's so mean to his players, and he wouldn't say hello when he walked by them in the hallway. And, he was just so hard on them. And he told Tua he wouldn't have drafted him. Should have drafted Mac Jones, stuff like that. First of all, it's football. Your coach isn't there to be your friend. Your coach is there to hold you accountable and make you a better team. So if you walk past your coach in the hallway and you say hi and he doesn't say hi or he doesn't acknowledge you, get over it. Go get ready for practice. You're not the first person or first NFL player that's ever been ignored by their coach. Or you're not the first player that the coach has ever yelled at and hurt their feelings. And you won't be the last. This is football, and you're just going to have to get used to it. Sometimes you can get a really chill coach in football like a Pete Carroll or Tony Dungy, but those are few and far between. More times than not, you're going to get the Belichicks, the Parcells, the guys that are going to be in your face, cower, cussing you and spitting you and, what are you doing? Yeah. Right? They're not going to be there to shake your hand and ask you how your day's going. That's not what they're there for. So reports coming out of Miami is that the Bills defense coordinator Leslie Frazier has interviewed there. I believe the offensive coordinator Brian DeBall for the Bills is also interviewed there, and the DC for Dallas, Dan Quinn. Those are the three at the top of the list. Out of those three, who I would see get in that position, I think Miami wants to go more of an offensive direction. So I think Brian DeBall would be the choice out of those three gentlemen. It's just obviously just a guess, but I think they would go with him. Now in Chicago, they got rid of Matt Nagy. Some guys that are interviewing there are, once again, Leslie Frazier, defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Brian Flores, former head coach of the said Miami Dolphins, the guy that hurts people's feelings, and Jim Caldwell. Caldwell's been around a while. I don't think he's coached in the last year or two. I think the last time he was coaching, he was an assistant. And but I always thought Caldwell did a pretty solid job. I thought he was a pretty good coach. Out of those three guys, I would say Leslie Frazier would probably be their number one choice out of that group. Because you're in Chicago, you want to go defense, right? Leslie's coming from Buffalo. It's just as cold and miserable in Buffalo as it is in Chicago. So I think he would have the inside track on that. Now we're going to talk Houston Texans. They got rid of their coach. And rumors on the radio are they've already interviewed Brian Flores. And I heard the other day that they had former wide receiver in Pittsburgh, Hines Ward, in for an interview. And I heard they have the New England Patriots linebacker coach, Gerald Mayo, in. Now, out of those three, I can tell you right now, Houston would take Brian Flores in a heartbeat. So, for me, I can see Flores getting that job in Houston. And excuse me, he's already got a connection with Deshaun Watson. So the rumor is Deshaun wants to play for Flores. And that way, if they hire Brian, then Deshaun will be willing to stay there in Houston. And so they get the quarterback back along with a new head coach. So for me, I'm almost 100% sure they're going to hire Brian Flores. Broncos got rid of Vic Fangio, and now they're looking for a head coach. And the three people that I've been hearing in the rumor mill is, once again, Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, Eric Bieniemy, the OC at the Chiefs, and the OC for the Cincinnati Bengals, Brian Callahan. Who do I think would get that out of those three, the Denver position? I think Dan Quinn. I think Denver wants Dan Quinn, and Dan Quinn's done a really good job. So if I'm putting money on it, I'm betting Dan Quinn's the next head coach of the Denver Broncos. And our last coaching vacancies in Minnesota, they ran the former coach out because they said that he run a fear-based culture where he made his players fear him, Mike Zimmer, right? Mike Zimmer is a heck of a defensive coordinator. Great, one of the best in the league. I mean, I would love for the Steelers to hire Mike Zimmer, but they would never do that because they're not that intelligent. But he's a great DC. But once again, players' feelings are getting hurt. We can't have a fear-based brand organization. We can't be afraid of the coach. Coach has to be our friend. He's got to make us feel welcomed. He can't hurt our feelings, okay? So this was going on in Minnesota. So now they ran him out. And the candidates they got coming to interview for that position. Now, coach is coming in for that job vacancy is Kellen Moore, OC for the Cowboys. We got Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. And Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, out of those three, who do I think would get that job? I'm going to tell you right now, Todd Bowles. And I don't think it's even close. I think Todd Bowles will be a great hire. I mean, he was with the Jets, but you can't judge anybody that coached the Jets because the Jets are the Jets. So I think Todd Bowles will be the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And remember, you heard it here on O-Line About Sports first. So that is my insight and my predictions of the head coaching vacancies that will be filled within the next 3 to 4 weeks. All right, we're moving on to our next segment. This is called The Lions Roar. This is going to be a hot take section for me where I will talk about a coach, an athlete, a team, something like that, to get something off my chest, to hear me roar. And today, my first victim is going to be none other than Coach Oblivious. Coach, the standard is the standard, Mike Tomlin. Now, Mike Tomlin is very polarizing. And if you're not a follower of the Steelers and you just listen to ESPN and Fox and things like that, you would think Mike Tomlin was Bill Belichick Part 2. You would think, man, this guy wins so many games and teams are so good year in and year out, and they go to the playoffs all the time. But as a Steeler fan, let me tell you, that ain't the case. We made the playoffs this year on sheer luck. One of the luckiest get in the back door playoff appearances in the history of the NFL. This man, in the last 11 years, with some of the most elite talent on both sides of the ball. Think of Palomalu. Think of, this year TJ Watts, Cam Hayward, just on the defensive side of the ball, Ryan Clark. Offensively, think of Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell in his prime, AB in his prime before he went crazy. Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders, Heath Miller, a bunch of great offensive linemen throughout the years. And this man that the media claims is a coaching genius in 11 years has won 3 playoff games with all that talent. This man has been in charge of collapses in 3 of the last 4 years. Now, we somehow, by the grace of God, made the playoffs this year because Jacksonville beat the Colts and the Raiders decided to kick a field goal. Just think, if the Raiders decided not to kick a field goal, we don't go to the playoffs. Not if they miss it or make it. Just if they just decided we're not even going to attempt a field goal, we're just going to take a knee, we're not in the playoffs. And people want to say, oh, what a great coach he is. What a great coach. No, he is not a great coach. He's not a great game manager, one of the worst in the league. His time management is terrible, makes no adjustments. He 9 times out of 10 has no clue what's going on. He challenges at the worst possible time. He almost always loses every challenge. He doesn't hold the players accountable on and off the field. The locker room culture is a joke. The Steelers used to be about winning divisions and going to the playoffs and competing to get to the Super Bowl. Now the Steelers about, oh, but Mike Tomlin didn't have a losing record. But we didn't make the playoffs. But he didn't have a losing record. But we finished 3rd in the division. Oh, but he didn't have a losing record. When did the Steelers become about the head coach not having a losing record instead of we won the division or we made a deep playoff run or, God forbid, we actually made it back to the Super Bowl? When Tomlin first got there, everything was in place. He was handed the keys to the Ferrari. And give him credit, he won 1 Super Bowl. But after that, he let AB run the culture of the locker room, Bell, all those yahoos. Now look at Claypool, look at Juju. Bunch of buffoons. So I don't want to hear what a great coach Mike Tomlin is. You know what? Y'all want to talk about he's never had a losing record? Well, let me ask you something. What's his playoff record? His overall playoff record? Oh, that's right. It's a losing record. It's 8-9. As a Steeler fan, I care more about his playoff record than his regular season record. That means nothing if you don't make the playoffs. And that's my take on Mike Tomlin. Okay, now we're going to get into predictions for this weekend's NFL playoff games. And we'll start with Cincinnati at Tennessee. Now, I have a lot of friends, obviously, from Tennessee, a lot of Titan fans, and I have a few friends that are from Ohio and are Bengal fans. And I know this game is in Nashville, and I know that King Henry's supposed to be back. So the Titan fans are feeling pretty full of themselves and pretty cocky, pretty confident. But I tell you what, 9 times out of 10 in a playoff game, it comes down to what quarterback performs better. Give me Joe Burrow over Ryan Tannehill any day of the week. I'm taking Cincinnati in an upset in Nashville to shock the NFL and move to the AFC Championship game. And you heard it here on No Line About Sports first. Our next game is going to be the 49ers at the Green Bay Packers. What's the temperature, you ask? Cold. Give me the Packers. Once again, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers over Jimmy G any day of the week. I think Packers win this rather easily. Then we're off to the next AFC game, which will be the Bills at the Chiefs. I think this is going to be a really good game. It's going to be go back and forth. I mean, no matter what the temperature is, neither team will be affected by it because both of them are used to playing in the cold. Arrowhead's super loud, has a great home crowd advantage. I think it's going to be close, but I say the Chiefs win by a field goal. So give me Chiefs by 3, and I think it's going to be the Chiefs versus the Bengals in an AFC Championship game. And the last playoff game this coming weekend, I think, will be the Rams versus the Bucks, but it could be the Cards because the game hasn't been played yet. And I'm going to say this. If the Rams win tonight, which I think they will, I think they go to Tampa and they take care of business there too. I think that D-line is just going to be too much for Brady to handle. They're going to be in his face at the snap of the ball. I know he's got a good line, but a couple of those guys are banged up. He doesn't have all his receivers. And I think that Rams go down there and they beat Tampa Bay. And that means that the Rams would play Green Bay in an NFC Championship game. And if the Cards win, I'll say Cards go down there and upset Tampa Bay too. I don't see Tampa Bay beat neither team. I think that this weekend's the last game of the year for Tampa Bay. So either way, I take the Rams or the Cards over the Bucks. And that'll set us up for the Bengals at Chiefs and the Rams Cards at Packers. Right. And we'll talk about the winners of those games next week. We come to our next segment called Rookie or Canton Bust. So in this segment, we'll take an athlete who's obviously a rookie in the sport, could be the NFL, NBA, whatever, and we'll debate, is this guy going to be a bust or is he going to be so good he's going to get a bust in Canton? So is he going to be a rookie bust or is he going to have a bust made in Canton? And today's player on this first installation of this segment is going to be none other than the Jacksonville quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Rookie bust or Canton bust? Now, I was a big fan of Trevor coming out of Clemson. I thought he did really, really amazing things there. Won a natty, got back to it. Just surrounded by a lot of talent, but he always stood out. It wasn't like, if you watch Hurts in college, man, he was just surrounded by so many good players, but he never really stood out. To me, Trevor Lawrence jumped off my TV screen, even though he was surrounded by great players. So when he got drafted by Jacksonville, I'm like, yeah, he's going to struggle because they don't have a lot around him. And then, hiring Urban Meyer. Hello. Name one good quarterback Urban Meyer's ever coached. I mean, this guy is the same guy who thought Joe Burrow wasn't good enough to start at Ohio State. That tells you what a quarterback guru Urban Meyer is. So I knew that was going to stunt Trevor. And, Trevor had a real, real tough year. He really did. He struggled. And, there after Urban left, he had, a game or two where he still struggled. But I think the last couple of games of the year, he started playing better. In that last game against the Colts, man, he looked on point. He looked, relaxed. He was going through his read progressions. He had good footwork in the pocket, good release point. I mean, he looked good. So, it's hard for me to put him in Canton, obviously, because if you look at his body of work, you would say, no, he's nowhere near Canton. But I'm going to project it. I'm going to project a career that the first couple, 2 or 3 seasons is going to be a real struggle, just based upon where he's at, what he's got around him. But I'm going to say about year 4 or 5, it's going to kick in. And I think at the end of his career, barring any kind of catastrophic injury, of course, I think he'll be good enough to make the Hall of Fame. But that's just a projection. But for me, Trevor Lawrence, Canton bust. Now, we're going to talk about the NBA a little bit here. I want to give you my NBA MVP up to this point of the season. I obviously there's a lot of good candidates for it, and the usual suspects. But for me, I'm gonna kind of veer out left field a little bit. I'm gonna say right here, right now, as of this day, if the NBA season stopped and they had to name an MVP, I'm gonna say MVP should go to DeMar DeRozan. And he's averaging a little over 25 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He's shooting 85% from the free throw line. He's helped get his team to the top overall record in the Eastern Conference, and I think they're like 5th best overall in the NBA. And be honest with yourself, before the season started, who would have ever thought that at this point in time the Chicago Bulls would be number 1 in the East? Nobody. And obviously Zach LaVine and Vucevic had done a major role in helping them obtain that position. But, I think DeRozan is the straw that stirs the drink. And, he's been on a few other teams. He's got that experience. And right now, for better or worse, I would say DeMar DeRozan is the NBA MVP. But, talk to me a month from now. It might be somebody totally different. And, shout out to the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't think anybody saw this. They're like 3rd or 4th in the West. And, obviously Ja Morant is a really talented player, but, those other guys are stepping up. They have a really good defense. And when you play the Grizzlies, man, you better bring your lunch because they're going to be in your face. And it's not going to be, oh, let me get out of your way while you drive the lane to get a layup or a dunk. They're contesting, and they're hungry. And one thing that you don't want to face, especially if you're an older team, is a young, hungry defensive team that will not let up. That's the last thing you want to face. So kudos to the Memphis Grizzlies. They're exceeding anybody's expectations before the season started. And Cleveland Cavaliers, I think they're like 6th in the East. So, those are some young teams, up-and-coming teams to keep your eyes out for. And let's see if they can sustain it. Let's see if they can carry it on and make the playoffs. It'll be interesting. But so far, the NBA season is off to a pretty solid start. Well, I want to thank you for joining on the first ever episode of No Line About Sports. And next episode, we'll have guests on. We'll have a surprise appearance by Gizmo Damas. And we'll get some picks and some predictions. And we'll bring some people on that might want to have a little debate with me on several topics. But we'll see what happens. So thank you, and please hit that subscribe button. And remember, you can lie about a lot of things, but there ain't no lying about sports.